Amazon was on a hiring spree last year and everybody was getting a call. But this year, the e-commerce giant has gone into a corporate hiring freeze. Twitter and Facebook have already laid off a massive chunk of their workforce, and Intel is laying off thousands of their employees. One of our clients who was interning at Intel and had a good performance in his internship was hoping for a full-time offer, but has still not received it. This is not all. Boston University has increased its tuition fee by 4.25%. That's the biggest increase in 14 years. Everybody from MIT to Harvard to University of Texas at Dallas are raising their tuition fee this year. Yes, global economy is going into recession and we are seeing the impact of it everywhere. So the billion-dollar question is, should you still go to study abroad? And that is what I will be discussing in this video. In the end, I am also going to give you my personal recommendation, whether you should go abroad or not, and how is the situation in US and Europe. So keep watching. I have been getting this video request about recession on Instagram for a while now. So hopefully in today's video, we will be able to alleviate your concerns. Now I'm going to review the whole situation based on two things. First is, let's look at how bad is the situation in US and Europe. And secondly, what does it mean for you? Should you defer your study abroad plans or not? So how bad is the situation in US and Europe, right? I am going to evaluate this on two factors. Number one is cost and number two is bad job market. Let's look at the cost first. Now, according to IMF projections, the global growth will slow down from 6% in 2021 to 3.2% in 2022 and 2.7% in 2023. This is the weakest growth profile since 2001, except for when we saw the global financial crisis, 2008. By the way, I was a student at that time, and the acute phase of the COVID-19 pandemic. So GDP growth projections for both US and Europe are negative for next 2 years. And this also means that inflation is at an all-time high in both US and Europe, as you can see in this chart. Now, what inflation means is that the cost of everything, from food to petrol, from rent to electricity, everything goes up. Now, the average rent in Greater London has shot up by 16% in 1 year. That is by far the highest rate of increase seen in the real estate region anytime, at an all-time high. And according to Euronews, the rental cost of one apartment in Lithuania has gone from 100 euros in 2021 to almost 400 euros now. So needless to say, cost is shooting up like anything. But that's not all, right? Because it is much expensive for businesses to run their operations, universities are also affected because universities are also businesses. This means that they have to pass some of this cost on to the students, which means that we are seeing an unprecedented rise in tuition fee this year. Let's look at some numbers, right? Seattle University and Syracuse are raising their tuition by 3.75 and 4.5%. Total cost at Harvard University has gone up from $82,000 last year to $84,000 this year, which is, by the way, almost 70 lakh rupees. Let's look at the second impact, which is the bad job market. Now, whenever recession hits the market, employers go on a cost-saving mode, which means going on hiring freezes and not doing visa sponsorships. So as some of our clients, call us strategy people who are already studying in US this year, they have noted that companies are either rescinding job offers, not rolling out job offers, and also not sending out enough interview calls. Now, this is the irony of working on H-1B visa, right? Like American workers, H-1B folks also pay 20 to 40% of their wages on federal, state, and local taxes. But unlike American workers, H-1B visa has no unemployment benefits. And if you get laid off while you were on H-1B visa, you have only a 60-day window to figure out your next job option. Otherwise, you might have to move out of US. By the way, layoffs are also going on in Europe. The only silver lining I would say is when these companies do layoffs, they actually give a decent severance package. For example, Facebook is giving 4 months of base pay plus 2 weeks pay for every year that you worked at Facebook. So let's say you worked there for 5 years, you will get basically a severance package of 6 months of your base salary. I would say that is the only silver lining, because we don't see these kind of generous packages here in India. And by the way, layoffs are going on very much in India as well, right? So that stress of layoffs is a worldwide phenomenon, not just restricted to US and Europe. So let's come to the main question. Does it mean that you should not go for studying abroad? Okay, now here's the thing. International students and workers are very, very important for both US and Europe because their own labor supply is not enough, right? And this is the reason why US has a 3-year STEM OPT, so that people can stay back for 3 years while trying to get the H-1B visa. And similarly, if you notice, Europe and in particular UK has been introducing a lot of scholarships for international students. In fact, UK has so many new scholarships for Indians this year alone, right? Which means they badly want you and they will try a lot of tactics to keep you in there, right? Now, these governments are also working hard to do something about the recession. For example, both US and Europe have been raising the interest rates in order to curb inflation, as we can see in this chart. And just like in COVID times, when, by the way, US released a huge $2 trillion stimulus fund, they are again creating packages to give reliefs to people during this time of recession. Let's look at some numbers. So US is sending, I think, $1,000 checks to residents in some of its states. Similarly, UK is giving out £400 relief on energy bills. Germany, which is really badly hit by inflation, is offering one-time payment of €300, and many other European countries are sending relief checks to low-income households. So unlike India, when shit hits the fan, you can actually get real money in these countries, right? Now, talking of India, yes, we are doing pretty well at the moment. Our GDP is looking healthy, markets are looking good, but let's not forget the fact that US remains one of the biggest export markets for India. And if recession or something bad really happens in US, India will also fall down along with it, right? So as I mentioned, India is also not spared off from layoffs either. So while things are looking good, I would still maintain a cautious outlook for India. So what does it mean for you? Firstly, I think you should remind yourself why you decided to study abroad in the first place. Perhaps you were looking for better jobs, better salaries, and most importantly, better quality of life. If those reasons are still true, then that's a good enough reason to go and study abroad. Also, I want to bring up an important point which applicants sometimes overlook, right? Recession are worst for people who are still in school, right? And who are graduating this year, because they never planned for this recession. Similarly, people who graduated in COVID never saw it coming and they had to handle it anyhow. For people who will be now going to study abroad, you will be in the school for next 2 years. And I think recessions are a pretty great time to be in school, because while the world is figuring itself out or the economies are slow, you are taking this time to upskill yourself. And by the time you graduate and are ready to earn, the world would have probably gotten back in place, right? So I think if you can spend next 2 years in school while the world figures itself out, it's not a bad proposition. Also, if you look overall, recessions are cyclical in nature. They will keep happening every few years and you can't really predict them, right? When everything was looking great, you suddenly get a prime minister like Liz Truss, who sent the whole UK economy crashing. Or suddenly Donald Trump might get elected, who can start anti-immigrant rant. These factors are beyond your control, right? These are geopolitical and macroeconomic factors. We cannot plan for them. The only thing you can plan for is how to prepare yourself to handle such unexpected situations. Also, let's not forget that a lot of this recession is stemming from the Russia-Ukraine war. And since we don't know how long the war is going to last, this uncertainty can last for some time. And if you're a person who hates uncertainty, then you can think of staying back, right? Now, to put it plainly, you should not go to study abroad if you have a very, very good job right now, you are happy in there, and if you think another year will make you feel more confident and financially secure. In that case, yes, you can defer your plans and try going abroad next year. But if you're unhappy with your current job and if you can manage the increased cost somehow, I think you should still continue with your plans and go for study abroad. Now the final question, US or Europe, is there a better destination between the two? Now, I feel like the recession in US and Europe is actually fundamentally different. Why? Because Europe has been struggling for some time. Their declining population, weird economic policies, and now war. The economy has been weak for some time. But the silver lining is that because the labor supply is low, they are doing a lot of things to attract and retain international students, and that works in your favor, right? They are being very, very student friendly at the moment. US is not weak. It's a cyclical recession, I believe, and they will eventually come out of it. The thing is, I've studied and worked in US, and I see it's a very driven and entrepreneurial economy, and they will do everything they can to keep moving forward. And best example or proof of that is the way they handled their COVID situation. They were in a pretty big mess, but they quickly came out of it and their economy bounced back like anything. So I would never ever bet against US, I think. And this is also reflected, by the way, in this chart. If you can look at it, this chart shows the strength of US dollar against world's major currency, which is at its highest point since 2005. It simply means that while everyone is struggling, they are putting their faith in US dollar. So if there is one country that you can bank on, it is the US, right? Of course, you will see short-term hiccups like visa sponsorship, layoffs, or lesser job offers. But there is nothing fundamentally wrong with economy in US. To summarize, I don't think you should defer or cancel your study abroad plans at all. Just be more prepared for it. So if you have good work experience and are not happy in your current job, it's actually a very good time to go back to school and upskill yourself. Right? Both Europe and US remain attractive destinations as we discussed, albeit for different reasons. Europe because it's international students friendly, and US because it's a fundamentally strong economy. Lastly, make yourself aware of good funding opportunities and scholarship options for your target country so that you can keep the cost of your education low. We have a very solid funding masterclass if you're targeting US. I would leave the link below in the description box. Check it out if it makes sense. As always, stay subscribed because we have a lot of relevant content coming up on our channel, and I will look forward to your comments and questions below, and I will see you next week. Take care.